All right, let's do it live on a Draft Week Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z. That's the Beast, and away we go. How you living, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm thrilled, by the way, that it's here. Oh, hello, Miss D. I'm thrilled. Luminaries here. It's Draft Week.
Yeah, Luminaries in the house, yeah.
I'm thrilled that we're here, that we finally
you don't say.
At Draft Week. That, to me, is very, very exciting because it's one of those things, like the time for talk is over, the time for speculation is over. That's one of the things that you love about, for example, a big fight, a big sporting event, all the hype, all of that, and then boom, now we're going to get resolution and conclusion.
Gibby, your mic's on.
Good job out of you.
Did he want?
I just didn't want you to say something, but I heard you clear your throat, and then I heard you breathe, and I'm like, I just think Gibby ought to know because I don't want you.
No, I appreciate the heads up.
I didn't want
We're multitasking, and as my wife says, I don't do anything well when it comes to multitasking.
We don't need to start Draft Week with an incident.
No.
So there you go.
Wouldn't be the first.
No, we do not. No, we don't.
No, this has been it's the first time you and I have done this show since we've had a high pick. We had the 10th pick with Jed. I came on Baker's rookie year, so very first camp. That was it. So it's been a lot since then. But so this is the first time that we've had to experience it. And I think you were on your golf trip last week when I was discussing. I can't remember if it was with Tyvis or Gerard or I don't remember who, but we were talking about it. And I said, I think the thing that makes this a little tricky too, and what's made this one. To me, what seems a little bit redundant. To me, this feels redundant. All these mocks feel redundant to me. I think it's just because there has been a consensus since the end of February that Cam Ward was going 1, and that there isn't really, according to most people, and you and I did a lot of shows about Shedeur, but it feels like the consensus is that he's not worthy of going 2 overall. And so then what? So then you pivot, and it's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, both incredible prospects to be excited about. But the last time we picked number 1, you were doing the show, although I hadn't joined you yet, but it was Bake and Allen and Rosen and Darnold, and you had all these quarterbacks that were in the mix, and that leads for a wide array of conversation. What style do you like? What personality do you like? What are you hearing about this? You can get there. In this scenario, that didn't happen. We were kind of robbed of that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because what do you need to turn things around? It's a quarterback, and we did months where it was quarterback. I still, in my bones, believe that. But if it is not the belief of people, making these decisions that Shedeur is worthy of that pick, then obviously you don't take him, and hopefully there's a way that maybe get Travis Hunter and Shedeur here, which would be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's kind of, it feels like. Is this the worst year in recent memory to have the number 2 pick? Now, you may get a great player, but I'm talking about it from if you're looking from a quarterback through a quarterback prism. Last year you get Jaden Daniels. The year before you get C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
This year is not that, unfortunately.
They say.
I
don't know.
Right, and that's the thing. It could end up being that way, and then that would be, to me, even more catastrophic if there were if Shedeur was that guy. And now hopefully we get him still, but just not at 2, which would be fine. Because once you draft them, if they are, it really doesn't matter where they were drafted. If they're not, it also doesn't really matter where they were drafted. This is a huge, obviously, draft for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's a massive draft. Yeah. You and I have shared ad nauseum our thoughts on how offensive-centric it must be. Now, from talking, and now I've done kind of a lot of reading on it, I will say I'll be good with whatever they do, but I would be fine if it is a tackle at 33. Supposedly, like, there are the top 5 tackles, and then there's like a huge gulf between everybody else. But we're about scoring the football, and if you believe that tackle is going to help you score the football, that's fine. But we need serious skill talent. Now, this draft is deep at running back, it's deep at tight end. We know we want those. If you draft Hunter right there, you get Hunter. And to me, it almost feels like we're at a point where there would have to be a very interesting scenario unfold on night 1 for us to be in the mood or market to go get, say, a Shedeur, or whether it's a Dart or whomever it is that they like. Or I think you're waiting for a McCord, Howard, Dylan Gabriel type.
Yeah.
You got Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, it's 26.
So it's interesting how this has evolved, and I think now we're just at the point right now that you want to see what it is, and you're ready to roll, right? You're just ready to let's get it and let's get going. By the way, as we're talking, Daniel Jeremiah was on Pardon My Take earlier today and said this, quote, Cleveland's going to take him. He's going to major in offense, minor in defense. He would say he's a wide receiver, cornerback, and not the other way around, which is important because, first of all, he's talking about Travis Hunter. Cleveland's going to take him. He's going to major in offense, minor in defense. He would say he's a wide receiver / cornerback and not the other way around, which for those of you who watch Zoolander is very important. You want to be an actor / model and not the other way around for Fabio. Yeah, it feels like that's where you're at. It feels like where you're at is we're going to take Travis Hunter, and then we're going to see where it goes. Now, to your point, Abdul Carter is also an excellent prospect. You and I think I can speak for us. We are just of the mindset that if we're not getting a quarterback, let's get the best offensive player in this draft. Right?
Yeah, you have to score the football.
We are the worst in the league at it.
You did the exercise a couple of weeks ago when you said, look, we can play defense right now.
Yep.
We put a defense out there right now and be ready to go. So it's good enough. I just am of the mindset now defensively in the NFL that offenses are going to score points. At the highest level, the offenses are going to score points. So what you need out of a defense is you need a handful of plays a game where you can make a game-changing play. It doesn't always have to be like a strip sack, fumble, or an interception, but it's got to be a big stop on third down. It's got to be the difference between a field goal attempt and a touchdown and a first and goal. You need a handful of those a game. You do not need – I just am of the belief that the old defense wins championships. You can win with the greatest defense. I just don't think it exists.
It's just
I think it's done.
hard.
The offense, it's so rigged to the offense. The offense has so many advantages. I think the glut of skill position talent that's going to start to filter into this league at receiver is just going to be astonishing. I think guys that we used to look at and say that's a number one receiver in many instances is going to be a 2 and a 3 because of the amount of depth that's coming in. I mean, I think this kid at Ohio State, Emeka Buku, who's seems like making a little bit of a move up some of these draft charts. In a normal, like 15 years ago, he's probably one of the first 15 picks. But now there's so many wide receivers in every draft that come out, and he would have been viewed as a number 1. Now people are saying, oh, he's a 2, he's a 3, he's really good, but he's a 2 or a 3 receiver. It's like, God, he's really talented, but there's such a glut in them that we're going to continue to score so many points, and then defensively it's just timely.
Yep.
Make some gain. You're not going to win a Super Bowl 17-14 anymore. I just don't.
The
I think it's done.
winning score was 31.5 points a game in the playoffs last year. The team that won's average scoring 31 points a game.
Yeah, I just think that part of it is totally done. So
it's too hard.
It is.
It's too hard to play defense, and that's the other thing is because of those rule changes and because you're facing offenses that are so good, for example, in our division, Baltimore and Cincinnati, like the idea that you're going to be able to hold them down into these low-scoring games and win that way consistently is it's hard to get your head around. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No. You need in those games to win, you need the guys that you've compensated, Miles, Denzel, those type of players to make Grant Delpit to make game-wrecking plays in timely moments, and that's how you
hopefully
win.
Hopefully Jay okay. Yeah.
And hopefully Jay okay. Yeah. That's it. All right, we made it. The draft is 3 days away. To this point, still no trades involving first-round picks. It's the closest to the first round that no trades have occurred. The last time we were this close was 1993. 5 days prior to the draft, the Kansas City Chiefs moved their first-round pick in exchange for quarterback Joseph Montana.
Yes, Joe Montana.
5 days before. I did not have it in my head that it was.
I didn't remember it was that close.
That it was that close.
Yeah.
To the draft. I knew it was an off-season one, but I did not remember. I had no recollection it was that close. Interesting tidbit from Schefter this morning. The Browns inquired about the possibility of trading up from number 2. The Giants at number 3 were even more persistent in their efforts to try to trade up for the top pick with Tennessee. The Titans have resisted those overtures and are expected to hold on to their pick. Yeah, that's something. I was talking to John Breach of CBS this morning about this, and like when you and I left the Combine, it was Titans are not taking a quarterback.
Nope.
And then shortly thereafter, they're taking a quarterback, and there's nothing you could do to pry him out of their hands.
Which is wild how it's changed in that regard. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember driving there, and when I go to the Combine, I often listen to Daniel Jeremiah's pod, try to listen to all kind of the pre-draft pods. It passes those 5 hours in the car very quickly, or pre-Combine pods, and Daniel Jeremiah was saying that They're not taking a quarterback. They want the new GM, Borgonzi, I think is his name, that he wants to have. He wants to get up on the first tee, and he wants to hit a beautiful ball right down the middle of the fairway. Doesn't need to hit a 300-yard drive. Just wants to hit a 250 right down the middle of the fairway. And two people that they thought that embodied were Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. That's just the right down the middle, as safe as you can be, and that's what they wanted their first big draft pick to be. And then it changed, and now they're taking a quarterback, and we had talked about it for a while. If you only want Cam Ward, go get Cam Ward. Unfortunately, it sounds like that's not possible.
Yeah. It seems that according to Schefter, people have inquired, and Tennessee says, nah, we're good. The Browns have added some depth to their defensive room. Cornerback Nick Needham is in the fold now. He is in his 7th season at UTEP, originally signed by Miami. Undrafted in 19, he's appeared in 63 games, 6 picks, 25 passes defense. Needham appeared in just 2 games for the Dolphins last year. Didn't he deal with
an ACL? Yes, in 22.
Yeah.
Serious ACL.
So he would add depth to the defense.
He's more of an inside corner, more of a slot corner. So whatever that portends for the future. But you would now have Greg Newsome, Needham, and Cam Mitchell, who all really are inside corners. Although Greg certainly can go inside or outside.
WrestleMania 41. Let me just say this before you say anything. You remember last year I said the boys could not wait. And we were locked in. We watched Saturday.
Because The Rock is
We watched Saturday. We watched Sunday. They didn't ask for it once this weekend. Not one time.
So they're also too young. Like John Cena wouldn't mean anything to them.
He means nothing to them.
Because John Cena last won the title at WrestleMania prior to this in WrestleMania 29, which is 12 years ago, which would be, when NBC was born?
What year?
It was 12 years ago.
Yeah, he'd been one.
It would have been one.
Yeah.
So
John
Cena means nothing
last
to
year
them.
they couldn't. They just did. We got this is Mania.
Yeah, because it was
nothing.
everywhere, and it was The Rock, and it was
this. So how'd it go?
It was awful.
Really?
That's not fair to say. There were some good things about it. It first of all does not need to be 2 nights.
No.
Like, I'm sorry if you're not. It's one of those things. Like if you're not good enough to be on the one super card, be better. Now I know there's politics involved and blah 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 and all of those things because it's not pure meritocracy. It is.
No.
It is written, but it was disappointing. The main event, so the first night main event was great. The triple threat Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, that was great. Paul Heyman, the story that all told was excellent. The rest of night 1 was fairly lackluster. Night 2 started off, the women's triple threat was really good. Dirty Dom winning the IC 4-way was great. Logan Paul, AJ Styles was a solid match. Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest was a solid match. It was solid. And then you get to the main event, and it's, Cena and Cody Rhodes. Now, The Rock at Elimination Chamber led to this heel turn and then never was on TV again. Mm-hmm. And Cena was on maybe a couple of times before he had to go make his movie. I have no idea why The Rock was not featured. I would love to find the answer out why he was not there, why he was not at WrestleMania. He needed to be there. The story
he didn't show up at all?
The story makes no sense that he's the one that made John Cena turn and then is never seen from him. He wasn't even really mentioned in the promos. It was odd. Now, when John Cena turned heel the first time, Travis Scott somehow ended up in the ring, and he was like...
The rapper?
Yes, and so he was beating up Cody Rhodes with John Cena and The Rock the first time. And in fact, exploded Cody Rhodes' eardrum with a open-handed slap over the ear, which you're not supposed to do. And the reason I mentioned that is because so you have this main event going, and it was fine, good back and forth. And then in the middle of the match, or 3/4 of the way through the match, Travis Scott's music hits.
He's got music?
It's his song.
It's his song.
Fiend, which was the song of WrestleMania. And he comes on stage, and it's a huge, long ramp. Takes, in my mind, way too long to get to the ring. And so him and Cody Rhodes are jawing with each other, and Cody brings him into the ring and gives him a crossroads and throws him out, but the distraction allows John Cena to pick up the belt. They knock the ref out, blah, 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 hits him with the belt, and then pins him, which is so anticlimactic for Cody to be pinned that way.
Yeah.
It was so weak of a way for John Cena to win, which is also fine because he's a heel, but is Travis Scott going to wrestle Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam? Is that like
What are we
gonna
doing?
happen?
Is there
And-
are wrestling fans like we got to have Travis Scott in this thing, or we're not
No,
getting it done?
no, but the WWE loves celebrity involvement, and Travis
Yeah.
Scott obviously is very popular, and he loves it. He's having fun doing it, being a part of it, all of that. Just based on the limited bit I saw of what they asked him to do, which was throw a punch that was blocked and take a crossroads, like the idea that he's going to be one of the celebs, like a Bad Bunny who was able to do it and did it incredibly well, that he's going to go in there and wrestle a match that's believable and credible, that seems very far-fetched at this point. It was one of the worst finishes to a WrestleMania main event ever. I think it was a disaster, in my opinion. I think that the Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns stuff, that's going to be interesting to see the follow-up on that. The follow-up on this John Cena thing is not that exciting because The Rock's not in it. And if The Rock couldn't have been in it, then The Rock should never have been in it. And now if I just want to know the truth. Why was The Rock not there? Why was The Rock, ever since Elimination Chamber, why did he never show up again? Why was he not there? Why was he not mentioned at all?
Does he have a role in the company?
He owns it. He's on the board of directors of TKO.
Cena's going to ruin wrestling tonight.
I mean, he ruined it kind of last. I mean, that was a horrible
No, he
event.
didn't. He didn't ruin it last night.
That was terrible. That was terribly.
There's
it
been
was
no
a terrible
buzz coming
thing
out
going
of it.
around it, but for Cena to win, like Ric Flair won all of his championships that way. So
Well, of course, I have no
don't
problem
want
with
people
it
taking
being
away from-
dirty. I just think Travis Scott being involved had nothing
Yeah, that
to do with
didn't need
anything.
to happen, but Cena winning a 17th, like that should still be.
Yeah, that's
like,
fine.
that's legit record.
It is. What do you mean? Why is he going to ruin wrestling tonight?
That's what he's saying.
Because he's
that
going to
he
take
won't-
the title?
But he was on
McAfee.
McAfee earlier and was, I think, very descriptive, but he won't blur the lines between what's on television. Like he has too much respect for it to, say how he really felt about winning 17. He told McAfee he would come back after his last match in December and have that conversation with all of them.
I mean, listen. The other part about it is he still looks ridiculous in his jorts. I mean, it looks absurd. I thought it was cool that he came out with no music and he came just like walked out. That was good. The way he walked out, all of that was good. He is so slow motion in the ring
Yeah.
that it was.
How old is he?
He's in his 40s.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was terrible.
With a lot of this stuff, because we've been over my wrestling, when the fandom was and such. But with this or with a lot of things, I always just view it through like, are my boys talking about it?
Yep.
And because they're next, right? I mean, NBC's 13, so he's got next, and whatever's trending, they usually have a pretty good idea about it because same way your kids do, because they're locked in with they're the target audience.
Yep.
And they're gonna be.
Yep.
And not a word.
Yeah.
Not a word about this weekend. Not like, hey, can we watch? Nothing. Never brought it up once.
Also, I think it being on Easter weekend is tough.
I agree. We said it should have been this weekend. They could have done it with the draft.
Yeah, just done it after.
It would have worked out just fine. So
It's so much, and believe me, again, I love professional wrestling. I have a lot of friends who are wrestlers. I'm also colored. I'm not a big Triple H guy. I don't think this was well booked. I really don't.
he's running it now.
Yeah, he's basically in charge of everything, and he did, his own. He was in the Hall of Fame this year, and all of those things. It was just disappointing. The Rock not being involved, and that, like, I just want to know what is the true story. Why was The Rock not involved? And I think that is something that they're going to need to address at some point. Maybe they won't. I don't know. There were great things. These guys are the best in the world at what they do. So there was great wrestling. There was a lot of really awesome things, but there were some things that I think were very, very disappointing. And that end of that main event, and you could just tell the crowd's lack of reaction, or all of it was just like, what are we? This is a joke.
Even this morning, as I was getting the Columbus show ready, and I was looking at like stuff to put in, it like nothing was even like moving there. Like there wasn't any bounce from it. Like last year, it was.
Yes, because it was The Rock. It was him.
Right, him finally finishing.
Cody
the story
finished.
and
So
all
he
that,
finished
yeah.
the story and was the champ for a year straight to lose to
In this
heel
way,
John
yeah.
Cena because of Travis Scott. Just
Yeah,
and maybe they will. Maybe they're going to do a Travis Scott Cody Rhodes match at SummerSlam, something like that. But
That dude performed at the halftime of the national championship game. Travis Scott did on top. It was taped, clearly, but on top of the Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. And the reaction to it was like, what is this? What are we doing? I don't know.
I think it's cool. You can have great celebrity involvement in all of this. That's part of WrestleMania. I mean, WrestleMania 1, Mr. T was in the main event.
He ain't Mr. T, buddy.
No, but it just... And then for him to win off of a belt shot that he took so long to then get the ref in and through that, it's just... It didn't even make any sense. Like, it should have been one more A, or you should have made him tap out. It should have been something more than that. That was just a very... it was disappointing. I'm not even whelmed. I wasn't whelmed by it. I certainly was not overwhelmed. I was significantly underwhelmed by what happened.
See, because I know what you're saying. Just explain to people, why is that different than how Roman Reigns went slow in the ring and everybody was eating it up when he was heel?
Because Roman Reigns, first of all, looks way better. Roman Reigns is way better than John Cena. John Cena won a singles match in the WWE in 7 years. It doesn't look right. There's something about it that his look is off. Roman Reigns is cool. That's the other thing. John Cena is no longer cool. No, and he was great. I mean, I remember when I was going to all of my WrestleManias, when I was like in the crowd, it was all John Cena. Mm-hmm. WrestleMania 20, WrestleMania 21 when he won his first title, I was there. 22 against Triple H, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. I was at all of those. He was in the main event of all of them. Mm-hmm. That's a long time ago.
It is, yeah.
Roman Reigns goes slow, but Roman Reigns also has explosive athleticism. And Roman Reigns, the other thing I would say that I would point out is if you just watch the difference in the way in which Cena takes like the jump up stunner that Cody Rhodes hits versus the way Roman does, Roman takes all those moves better too. And that's the other, like the way he was taking that stunner was terrible.
Yeah.
Or the Cody cutter, I guess they call it, was awful. So I don't know. Like, John Cena is a legit star. He's a guy that is top 10 wrestler of all time. He is, by whatever metric you want. When you had like a decade run on top, that's what you get. But the reality is this was poorly executed. It was poorly built. And maybe that's The Rock's fault. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see if that ever comes to life.
But I thought the build for it was terrible. And to your point, your kids were not into it at all. Whereas last year they
could not
all
wait.
about it.
Snacks. It was like the Super Bowl last year.
Yes, because it was.
They had the snacks. They were locked in, and they even begged to stay up late and watch on Sunday night, and I let them because it was on Sunday night, which I wish it was all Saturday, but nevertheless it was. But they did not say a word about it, so I don't know. Did you guys have a good Easter, everybody?
Yes.
Big win. So wife's Catholic, boys are Catholic, kind of makes me sort of Catholic. So you go to and obviously I'm aware that the Easter Mass is a biggie.
That's a big, that's
well known.
A legit.
Easter, Christmas Eve, those are the big boys. That's your
not
overflow rooms. Not only not going to be brief, you're talking overflow rooms. You're talking about if the overflow rooms are full, we're going to throw you in the school across the street. Like you got everything. So all right, fine. We get there early. We're there 30 minutes before it starts. We still are in the overflow. Okay, fine. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just listening anyway. I don't need to be in the room. I'm right next door.
You can
it's
feel
fine. He comes around with the water and he gives you a little splash. That's a win. Okay, fine. So we're in there, and there are a bunch of little kids. Now, we have 3, 13, 11, and 9, so I know what it's like to do this. I know how hard it is to try to take a toddler between the ages of 0 and 2 and take him to something that is meant to be paid close attention to and quiet for an hour, because that's how long it is, minimum.
Probably a little more than that on a day like that.
It is, and then also if you add in, it's 25 minutes of communion.
Yeah,
when you're giving communion to 75,000 people, it takes a while.
Yep.
So I get it. I've done it. This is my message for the people. If you bring your child to something like Easter Mass and they are not having it and you're having trouble reaching them, simply pick the child up and walk the child outside. Go to the playground and go listen with the door ajar if it's so important to you, or hell, play it on YouTube.
Yep.
Okay? The kid, it ain't for them. These folks could not wrangle these kids. It wasn't just one. It was several because they were feeding off each other. At one point, Beamsy, who's Abraham Lincoln, just was uncomfortable, like at how crazy the kids would be performing, and he was like bothered by it. And I'm like, well, this is what happens. And the reason I can do this because I was this guy.
Yep.
I was that guy. I would if NBC and AIM were in there and Beamsy or Bootsy, that's me. I grab them. Let's go for a walk.
Yep.
Go hit the playground. Let's hit the swings. We'll come back at the end. Away we go. Do the cross and we're out. Fine. Everybody wins. Just a refusal. Just leave.
The other thing,
just go because you're uncomfortable. We're all uncomfortable. No one can hear anything.
nobody's happy.
Let's just eliminate the problem.
Well, another way to eliminate the problem is I know that I've been to, as a younger person, to big Catholic masses, and then I've also been with my kids to a big Yom Kippur service, Kol Nidre, all of that. And I think places that are that big that are expecting that kind of scale should do what I've seen in both of those venues. When I was young, at like our church, there would be the main church where everybody do mass, but then they'd have like a room in the back where they had kind of more of a quicker, more fun mass that was for the kids,
right,
and for people who had young kids, so they could get what they needed to get out of it and then get out of there. But it was also not disrupting the main show, main program, and that's what I've seen as well at synagogues. I think that works really well. I think it's smart. I think it is. Yeah. It is. I think that's a good way to do it.
They don't know why they're there anyway. They don't even know what's going on.
No. And it's a long time where you have to be quiet.
Right. And sit relatively still.
Yeah.
Just take them out. Take them out of the spot. That's all you do, Gibby.
Yeah, I can remember. I mean, I brought, I was a kid. My parents were like loading me up. Here's a coloring book.
Yeah.
Here's this. Here's a crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
Like find something, because there was at our church, there was no child care on the holidays.
Yeah.
Like you had to go sit in the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Well, my mother was in the choir. Dad's the head usher. I'm going to stick you in the last row, so if I need to pull you, I can pull you.
Little Gibby.
But, like we're gonna equip you with the tools that you need to get through this.
That's it.
Okay. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. There were a couple times I went for a walk.
I think once you're a certain age, it's fine. But like anything under 2.5, I mean, you'll find like up to 18 months, you can't reason with them.
He is going to find out.
Yeah, you're not gonna. You can't reason with them. So then we did. We did that, and then we did some stuff outside, and then we went and played golf. It was me and Bootsy versus the two middles. The big in the middle, and Beamsy and NBC, and we were playing. They actually got up to a 2-hole lead on us. Played 9. They got up to a 2-hole lead, and we rallied and were heading down the stretch, and we were on 8. And Bootsy and I were ahead and to the left in the left side of the fairway. We had hit it further than them, and we were to the left, and they were back and to the right. NBC, who hits it pretty good, hit a rocket right at us, like rocket. Hit a rescue club, and he just pulled it. Remember, I was showing you how he was pulling it like that. He just pulled it like I'm talking
on
6 feet off the ground on a rope, right at me, like right at me. And it was one of those ones where, as we get old, our reflexes, we can see it, but I'm not moving as fast as I used to, in terms of getting the hell out of the way, and it's coming. He got all of it. And so I see it, and like my body's like, you have to move. And I moved like towards it initially, like, and then barely got out of the way. I did not unscathed. Bootsy and I unscathed.
You look great.
Clearly. Zipped through, and I go, I didn't even think. I just go, what the F? Except I said it. And so like they're all their jaws were dropped. Beamsy was like really upset with me.
I'm sure.
Because what are you doing? You can't. What are you
act
doing?
like that way.
Can't
have
say
a sense
that.
of decorum.
But it was just a reaction of almost getting brained.
Yeah.
Now, in fairness, were you ahead of them?
We were.
See,
we were on the other side of the fairway.
Yeah, but
It's probably what should have happened is we should have just driven back behind, or at least even to.
Yeah, we know
so
where
that it
the
was
ball
out of
is,
play.
but let's let them.
I
get out of
thought
the
that our angle was such that, and luckily enough, it was. I was able to get out of the way. I had Bootsy actually hide behind the golf cart because I'm like, I don't know. I think this is going to go straight, but who knows? But almost got smoked. Yeah. So that was nice little Easter Sunday for the kids.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, did you have to make amends throughout the rest of the day?
No, I said I shouldn't have used that language, but it was just a reaction to the absurdity of
almost
what
dying.
just happened. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all hear it now anyway. Like, it wasn't like when we were kids, like you only heard it if you rented a movie. Like, they hear it a lot. So they're familiar, but also, like, I wasn't exactly proud dad moment to do that. But Bootsy and I got the win, so that was he had a couple of clutch putts, and he likes sucking down his little snacks and stuff during the match. That's usually what he's big for. So
Bootsy had a couple is the boss of the moss.
he did. He had a couple of nice putts. Now the first 6 holes, I said I kind of got frustrated with him because he was just. I would tell him where to hit it, and then he would just blast it.
Okay.
And so then the next hole he would do it again. I'm like, he goes, "What do you think?" Every time he gets lined up, and he goes, "What do you think, Dad?" And I go, "I think it's probably left edge." And I would like get him lined up this, and I'm like, "Yeah, that works. Try that." So then after like the third time when he would just blast it like 10 feet by, I'm like, "However far you think you want to hit it, half as hard. Blast it by, half as hard again, half as hard again." Finally, by like 6, he started to get it to the pace down. He was just blasting it.
So what's the format that you play?
So we play any ball off the tee. Everybody tees off. Peyton and I go back, and then they're up all the way up. And our club they have it's pretty cool. They actually put
Like the junior tee is like in the
family?
middle of the
it's
fairway.
like in the fairway.
It's in the fairway.
Yeah. So like in some instances, it's 125 yards or better difference.
Yeah.
So we'll let them hit there, and Peyton and I will hit back member tees, and we'll play from there, and then they play from there. Beamsy and Bootsy play from up there. So then we take best drive, and so best drive, and then we play in from there. So that's the way that it works. So it's kind of a win.
So best drive, and then you all scramble in and play your own ball in from wherever the best drive ends.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So essentially it works too. Now like sometimes on a par 5 even, instead of having Bootsy and Beamsy, like even there, I'll just tee them up 150 yards out and say you play from here, because they can't.
Right.
They're not hitting it that far. Not yet. So, but a nice little tradition. So there you go.
Very nice. Lovely.
There you go. And the draft week is here. Those are your hot topics today, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Go ahead, sir.
What do I think? We could do it after the break. I will tell you one thing that Jack Hay, the great Jack Hay, every year at Easter that has turned into like the most fun. It is my favorite holiday tradition outside non-Christmas holiday tradition ever.
That's a pretty good tease. We'll do that, and we'll do Adam Schefter, what he's hearing draft notes coming up next. We're off and running. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns, on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans celebrate the excitement of the NFL Draft at the Crib, presented by Howard Hanna, April 24th, 25th, and 26th. Cleveland Browns alumni Josh Cribbs and other surprise guests will be on site at this exclusive open house. They will help you draft your dream home in Westlake, Ohio. When it comes to buying and selling, every client is a top draft pick with Howard Hanna. Jack A. did what?
All right, so we did this for the first time last year, and then we did it again this year, and it is the most fun. So on the kitchen island, there is a giant, like a solo cup, with the top cut off of it, or the bottom, bottom, but it's put face down, so that's the top.
Okay.
And then there are 50 little plastic eggs tied to dental floss, believe it or not.
Okay.
And then the dental flosses are all run up through and then sit outside the top of the cup so that you can't tell which string goes to which egg.
So there's 50 pieces of string that are coming up through this cup, and they're
attached to 50 eggs that are lying around, plastic little eggs.
Okay.
2 of the eggs, there's, green eggs, yellow eggs, orange eggs, purple eggs, blue eggs, and then 2 of the eggs are like golden eggs.
Oh, baby.
So you go into it, and you're wanting the golden eggs.
Of course you are.
So
Willy Wonka, we learned the lesson.
So within the eggs, you never know what's in there, but there's always cash.
Cash wins.
Cash, candy. There are a few that have handwritten things on them that you get, like a handwritten note that tells you your prize. And then there are various other things, which I will, in the telling of the story, I will get to some of those various other things. So basically there were 10 of us, and we went around and everybody gets 5 eggs. There can be as much as there are some $20 bills.
Let's go.
There are some $10 bills, and then there are some $5 bills from the cash standpoint.
20, 10s, and 5s.
There are rumors this year of a $100 bill.
Oh, baby.
Perhaps in the gold. So one of the joys,
Ben Franklin.
one of the joys of this is, people trying to figure out what they can get, and then, everybody wants the cash because when you get to, some of the other stuff, doesn't turn out to be as exciting, but it's still wonderful. So one of the fun parts about it is then you're watching Chris, Jack Hayes' husband, Kayla's father, and you can sometimes, and he's not being serious about it, but you see, oh, she put how much money in there? Because all of a sudden there's quite a few 20s are flying around. So we ended up doing real well. So kind of like the way that the island was like this, and you had on one side it went me, Kayla, Arden, Bryce, and then Chris was here, the great Mackle, Jack Hay, Alex, Alec is Alex's girlfriend, and then Nana.
Okay.
So that was the way that it went, and I think it started with Jack A. So Alec, Gayla's brother, on the first pull, like 3rd out of 50, pulls a golden egg, and so he is juiced.
Of course he is.
He's like, oh man, there'd been rumors of a $100 bill in there. He was fired up about it. Who wouldn't be? So he pulls it and he opens the egg, and instead it's one of the handwritten notes. And you know what it says? Socks. Oh. So she goes, Jack Kate goes and hands him a 3-pack of crew socks. Which is great.
Oh, boy. She's got a sense of humor, this Jack.
Oh, yeah. So then it goes around, and, Nana pulls like a 10. I hit a 20 early. Artie ended up being the big winner. She pulled like 50. Boods pulled nothing. So there's candy. He pulled a couple candies. Turns out there are magnets.
Okay.
And Jack Hay and Kayla during this game were hilarious. It was like watching Kristen Wiig in Saturday Night Live. So like Bryce was like, "What are these?" And Jack Hay was like, "Magnets. Every refrigerator needs magnets." And Bryce is like, "Okay,
fantastic,
great." There were like little hair ties, and my mom was like, "I love these." She opened the egg with hair ties, and she's like, as if they were a gift that was given to her. People are, whenever you open a gift, you're like, "Oh, I love this so much." Like that's how my mom reacted to getting hair ties in there. There were also Kayla, as you know, your wife has given birth to 3 children, has been pregnant 3 times. You need Tums at some point.
You do, yeah.
So inside one of the eggs was a little thing of Tums, and Kayla's like, "Oh my God, it's Tums!" And Jack Kay's like, "I wanted you to get the Tums," and we're just like crying, laughing. So you had Tums in there. You had little erasers with like positive messages on there. And so what you hope, you pick up your egg and you shook it and nothing happened.
Yeah,
and you're like,
'cause
then
then
I got cash.
you got a little
And there's probably, I would guess, 200-ish
Yeah.
total in there, which was funny. And Chris
Much to the
was
chagrin
very
of
generous.
Chris, yeah.
He got 20. He gave it to Boods. Poor Alec and Alex. They had rough luck. They did not end up flush. Arden, as I said, did very, very well for herself. But one of the other handwritten notes that Mackle got was for artisanal water. And she goes and she pulls a 6-pack of Fiji water out for him, and she's so excited about it. And it was funny. And then there was one
This is
teeny
pretty
little
funny.
thing of Vaseline that Chris pulled, and he's like, Vaseline, and Jackie's like, you need it. It was just, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time, just because the reactions to some of the gifts were hilarious. You had people getting frustrated that they were getting like nothing. Like Bryce pulled nothing but magnets, candy, and the hair ties and Tums. And then you had some people like Arden was just like a cash machine. She's like 20, 10,
Yeah.
10, like killing it. And you had other people who got nothing. And so it was just funny.
That's a good
and
job.
it was so fun. And everybody, you went home with a little something. And it was fun. So I don't know if you ever seen that.
I've never seen it. I think it's
feel like-
great.
Gibbe, have you ever heard of that?
I'm not. I like it.
It's-
That's something we could totally play at like Christmas time.
Oh, man.
I could convert that.
Well,
into-
it's, you do little ornaments maybe that you
Yeah,
can open.
exactly.
But it was.
I like the little egg with
the eggs.
That's fun.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
That's
And
a
then
good job.
people pick it up and like, you could tell like if it shakes something in there, you're like, candy, Tums.
I
But-
like the double cross of the golden egg.
Yeah, the golden
Thinking you're going to get something big, really exciting, and then
nothing.
How about some
And he
socks?
pulled it third, and he was, crestfallen. And then the other golden egg was also socks, but they were female socks. Unfortunately, it happened to work that they were picked by a female. But it was just hysterical to me.
it's
the
a
whole
very
thing.
good job.
Yeah,
That's a good job out of Jackie.
I like
Very
that
good
you have
job out
two
of
golden eggs, and they were nothing. All the other eggs.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
her. I like her sense of humor in all of it. I think
the
that's pretty
Tums.
win. Yeah, it's a win.
Oh man,
good job.
It was very, very fun. So shout out Jack Kay, hosted a wonderful Easter. And she had a couple games. She had another game where there were like bunnies. She put bunnies all over the first floor, and you had
Yeah.
90 seconds. You had to count how many bunnies there were. And I got first place. I got a sleeve of Pro V's.
Hey.
Yeah, big win.
Big win out of you.
There's so many funny things, but the egg game was really something special.
Fantastic. We'll get to Adam Schefter, what he's hearing in the lead up to the draft coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans celebrate the excitement of the NFL Draft at the Crib, presented by Howard Hanna. It's April 24th, 25th, 26th. Cleveland Browns alumni Josh Cribbs. Other surprise guests will be on site at this exclusive open house event to help you draft your dream home in Westlake. When it comes time to buying or selling, every client is a top pick with Howard Hanna. All right, this is Schefter. What he's hearing at the start of the draft. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter are expected to be gone by New England's turn at pick number 4. But that's where it gets murky, and this year might be murkier than others in recent memory. So Cam to Tennessee, Travis here. Abdul Carter would go 3rd overall to the G-Men. Kind of what the conventional wisdom is.
That's what it is right now. We'll see.
More from Schefter. Multiple teams have said that they will be drafted at number 10, the same quality of player as drafted at 32.
That's why, to me, a trade down is very scary in this one, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you trade to that point, you're not getting a star. I think it's very important that the Browns, even if they were to trade down, that they still get an absolute star in this draft. And certainly you can do that at number 2. I think you probably do that. Most people say as long as you stay in the top 6. But after that, it gets a little dicey.
Ward, Hunter.
Yep. Carter.
Genty,
Graham, and Campbell. And then some people say Tyler Warren. But that's
those 6, 5, 6, something like that. Yeah. Look, stay at 2 and take the best player in the draft. And then
now, if you're
that's
saying
where I am, but
if
whatever.
You're saying you got to go to 6 and you got to get a first rounder next year and another second rounder or something like that, okay.
It doesn't feel like the Raiders.
But I don't see how you would get that.
And I think the Raiders still think they're going to get who they want at 6, which appears to be Ashton Genty.
Yeah, that was
so outward.
I know, but I wonder if that was because of you have to. That was so obvious in the press conference that you wonder if that it was showmanship. But then you also can be that honest, I think, at times, because people would be like, well, maybe if they were being that honest, maybe it's.
I agree, and
malarkey.
I also think isn't his deal just 3 years? I think his deal matches Gino's deal.
Okay,
and he's in his late 70s.
Yeah.
Like, what does he care about if Ashton Genty gets to a second contract or not?
I don't think he cares about that. I think he just cares that he gets to him.
Give me that guy. That guy's, some people think he's Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Like, give me that guy. That's a sure thing. That's a star. That's someone you're going to have to deal with. And I don't care if he doesn't have a 10-year career. I can use him for 4 or 5.
Yeah.
What difference does it make? So to me, that makes a lot of sense with them there. It also backs up kind of what we've been saying, that they really need to win now. From a fan base perspective, they really need to win now. The Falcons have privately had discussions with teams regarding a potential trade for Kirk Cousins. They've asked for a lot in return, per sources. According to Schefter, Atlanta has asked for acquiring team to pay $20 million of the $45 million worth of guarantees left on Cousins' contract. The only team that I think, and this is only if Rodgers says no, is Pittsburgh.
I was reading
There's
a lot
nobody
today
else.
that Minnesota maybe wants him back, which would be wild
like as
to me.
insurance for McCarthy not being healthy?
I have no idea because he wants to go start. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm just saying read that.
No, it doesn't. Schefter also reports that one NFL executive said if the Giants like Shedeur, they're taking him at 3. Well, no kidding.
Yeah.
If we liked him, we'd take him at 2.
Correct.
That's one thing about this. Like, if you like him at 12, take him at 2. Who cares? What's the difference?
Yeah.
It's a first-round pick as a first-round pick. It doesn't matter. If they like him, they'll take him. There's a belief around the league that Saints are more interested in using a high pick on an offensive or defensive lineman. The belief is they want to draft a quarterback, just maybe not at 9 and maybe not Sanders, as another personnel executive puts it. I don't think New Orleans is taking Shedeur. I think they're hot and heavy on Jackson Dart. Who knows, man? Do you believe anything like after April?
No, we get to see it. I don't care. I don't care anymore. We get to see it.
Yeah, we get to see it. Schefter also saying there are teams that have Louisville's Tyler Shuck ranked as high as their top quarterback in the draft. We've been hearing that for a while. Schefter said it's likely that Shuck lands at either the Browns, the Giants, the Saints, or the Steelers. So there you go with the quarterbacks.
Again, as I said, I'm very excited that this is going to be definitive. We're going to know where people are going to go and what that's going to look like as well. Did you read this little nugget at the bottom from Mr. Siciliano?
I'm going to get to that in a second,
Oh, yeah.
but I did see in the Schefter notes on Pittsburgh, sources telling him the Steelers are not planning on drafting a quarterback in the first round. They're also not expecting the Sanders fell out of the top 10. Now options, they are preparing a case to have the option to draft Sanders. I continue to state, this is me, not Adam Schefter, that they believe they're getting Aaron Rodgers. Clearly. Their entire offseason, to me, is behaving in a way that they're getting Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
I just don't think they would do it any other way. So there you go on that. Our guy Andrew Siciliano with this. The Browns hold pick number 33. Number 33 has been traded in each of the last 3 drafts. 22, Jaguars traded up from 33 to 27 for Devin Lloyd. 2023, the Titans traded up to from 41 to 33 for Will Levis. And in 2024, the Panthers traded up from 33 to 32 for Xavier Leggett. So there you go.
Did you see one thing I thought that was interesting in here as well from Schefter?
Go ahead.
On Jalen Milroe. What to make of Milroe's invite. And he said, just because Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe was invited to attend the draft doesn't mean the league expects him to be picked on Thursday night. The league invites players it believes has a chance to be picked high, and even some that could still be on the board on day 2.
Sure.
The league invited Milroe because he's one of the top quarterback prospects, and even if he is not picked in round 1, he could certainly be in attendance Friday night. Teams certainly like Milroe enough, and it's fair to say many are incredibly intrigued. And then he drops the Andrew Barry quote about rare physical talent, maybe the only quarterback faster than Lamar Jackson. Says that he has some similarities to another quarterback named Jalen who played at Alabama, although he just doesn't have that passing finishing school. There are a lot of people that think he's going in the 3rd round. Now, will he? I don't know. And I do think in the 3rd round, if he were there, I think at that point the Browns would be very interesting to them.
All right, there you go. We've got some veterans who could be kind of milling around the draft too, in terms of a trade, something to watch out for this week. Jalen Ramsey, Jair Alexander, Cousins, as I just mentioned, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, Trey Hendrickson, all could be potentially moved this weekend as well in regard to the draft. But as of right now, every team still holds their 1st round pick. We'll get some player comps from the various players in this year's draft. Have a little fun with this coming up next. Second hour of the program. I should remind you could add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today, get 50 back in bonus bets. You place your first wager of 10 or more. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Buy Next Gen STM, presented by Ticketmaster. Become a season ticket member today. Join us at the Huntington Bank Field for all home games this year. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/tickets right now. All right, let's do a little NFL player comparisons for the top available weapons in this year's drafts. We'll have a little fun with this. This will be wild speculation.
Totally.
That you and I will do. Hold us to none of this.
Yeah.
There's certain things you can hold us to. Fine.
Not this.
It's in the brochure. Not this. Not this.
I'm going to
Not
have
hold us.
G-Man come on because he came up with this idea, too.
Let's go, G-Man. G-Man. G-Man, do you think Kev should have some traveling music with this?
Yeah, let's
I
do
feel
it.
like some travel. Kev, if you could, I understand we probably should have given you a heads up, but I think you're quite
That's
talented.
okay.
You can, of course, he's
Already
right
got it
on
rolling.
He's ready to
All right,
roll.
awesome.
That's exactly
So-
right. All right, G-Man, go ahead.
You're looking for a current NFL player to compare to all of these guys. So we'll start with Miami's quarterback, Cam Ward.
Cam Ward. I'm going to go size not, but kind of coming out of college. There maybe a little Josh Allen. I don't think he's going to be that. I don't necessarily think he's going to get to that point, but I just think the big arm, the athleticism, off-platform throws. He's probably more accurate than Allen was coming out of college. I don't think he's quite the athlete
not the
he
runner.
is. He's not the
Yeah.
runner.
No.
But just in terms of like off-platform arm, some stuff you're going to have to work through. And Allen got a lot of work. He got a lot of work. I don't think he's going to be that, but that's off the top of my head. That's the one that I jumped out to when I looked around the league.
So I'm doing this from like if
it hits,
yeah.
okay,
Like who they stylistically they remind me of and how that would translate if
Okay.
they were their best selves.
okay.
So, and I'm not saying I think they're going to be as good as the people I'm saying, but that's what they will have to win the way that these people win. My first one, Cam Ward, and just from watching his tape, the guy that I kept writing down in my notes over and over again was Mahomes. Not necessarily, I don't know if he's as talented as Mahomes, but any base, any platform, throwing, no-look throws, all of it, it's very Mahomesian out of and in structure in terms of what he does, the way he throws the football. It's what he reminds me of.
All right. We'll move on now to Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Current NFL comp. Z, we'll start with you this time.
I think he reminds me of like a Drew Brees. Questions about the strength of his arm, but the way he's going to win is from the pocket, very smart about the game, understanding what defenses are doing, where the ball should go, and then being able to deliver it very, very accurately.
So I only considered two names for this, and one of them was Breeze, and the one I wrote down was Goff.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it reminds me of Goff. Really accurate, really cerebral, smart, and I mean, by the way, if you were picking number 2 overall and you could get Jared Goff's career,
You'd be thrilled.
You take that.
today,
Thrilled.
you'd love
Absolutely.
to have Jared Goff's career. So I'll
We'll
go
move
Goff.
on now. Third quarterback on the list, Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Mr. Bishop, we'll start with you.
I have a ton of red flags, and sometimes with these college guys, like I watch them play in a big moment, and I know what the stakes are,
Like
and
the
they
Florida
blow it,
game.
like the Florida game.
Yep.
Where if they win that game, Ole Miss is in the playoff, man.
Yep.
They are in the playoff, and they blew it, and it was because of him. He was terrible in that game, so it's so hard for me to shake that. That's a tough one. I'm looking through. Maybe, I mean, he's not this type of player because I don't think he has this arm talent, but I think some of the inconsistencies are there with Levis a little. Like I could see him being that type of quarterback, but Levis has a bigger arm.
Sure.
But I think that the learning curve will be that. Levis played at Kentucky, and while he had the big arm, or doesn't have the big arm, but it was like there were moments. That's, I guess, where I'm going with that. I don't see anybody here that's kind of like him, though, like stylistically. Do you have one?
I said he's kind of like a Dalton-armed Jay Cutler.
Okay.
I think he's
like
a little
what you-
more athletic than Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler was actually, I think, a decent athlete.
He's got a little
better
bit, yeah,
athlete than people realize.
probably
but yes,
more than he probably didn't run as much. Yeah, Levis
a
has.
different era.
Levis will run it too. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of that with Dart. He doesn't. I like that. What about Dalton Levis?
That's fine.
Andy Levis.
I just love Jay Cutler
I
because he
like
does
him
have a
too.
little bit of the gunslinger panache of
he
a
does.
Cutler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alabama
inopportune
quarterback
interceptions like Cutler.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe.
For me, he's like a remedial passing Justin Fields. Tremendous athlete, great leader, could run for 1,000 yards in the NFL. But the reason Justin Fields is bouncing around is because he hasn't been as good of a thrower in the league, and I think he's a better thrower coming out as a prospect than Milroe was.
Justin Fields is a much better thrower as a prospect.
Well, that's
than
what I'm saying.
Milroe
So he's
coming
a worse
out.
passing
I think,
Justin Fields.
I think that's a really good job out of you. I was thinking about Malik Willis, if that fit, but I think Justin Fields I think that's a pretty good job, but not the passer.
Yeah.
Like he needed to go to quarterback finishing school. He needed to go be a starting quarterback for another year in college football and make $5-6 million bucks.
Like
Yep.
USC.
Or even Alabama. Kalen
Yeah.
DeBoer took
Penix.
from undraftable to first round, 8th overall. Like, stay at Alabama, make $5-6 million bucks quarterback in Alabama, and go to finishing school. Because he had moments. His Georgia game's as good as anybody ever played
Absolutely, yeah.
last year. He was unbelievable in the Georgia game. So, yeah, he's a tricky one.
All right, our final quarterback on the list is one of John Gruden's favorites.
Who they all are.
Will Howard, Ohio State quarterback. Bo Bishop.
Big guy. Big dude. Arms so-so. He's bigger than the. I'm trying to. Just kind of looking through all these guys, and he doesn't really have a. I'm viewing it through the prism of like starters.
He's how big? Was 6'4"?
6'4", 240. I mean, that's where he got the Allen stuff because, like, size-wise, but he's not like that at all. He's a good runner. He'll run. He'll stick his nose down. Maybe it's like Allen with 62% of the arm.
Like Roethlisberger?
That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. Like a remedial Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
That's not bad. I like that, G-Man. I can co-sign that. Playing style, I think, would be similar.
All right, let's move on.
Do you have one for him?
Oh, yeah, Z.
I like that, remedial Roethlisberger. I think that's good. Here's the thing that's weird with Howard, though, much like with Dart and the rest of these cats. Like when I said Dart, the Florida game, or Milroe, the Georgia game, he was unbelievable for 4 straight weeks. Now, their talent is unbelievable, too.
Yes.
They're going to have 15 guys picked, so that's what's hard about Buckeye quarterbacks. But, like, when it came time to make a throw, he made some clutch throws for Ohio State.
All right,
Clutch.
what years were you in Tallahassee?
I was in Tallahassee from 01 to 07.
Okay, so this would have
May
been
have
after your
07.
day, but you stayed connected down
Ponder
there.
or
I was gonna
E.J.
say
Manuel.
E.J. Manuel. Size is identical.
Size is the same. Yeah.
He was a good college quarterback.
EJ was he was a first round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was really good. Yeah. Yeah. That seems fair to me.
All right. Let's get to some of the skill
He
positions.
might have been a better runner than EJ was.
Let's see. I'm trying to pull up his college numbers. There you go.
Will
It's also different. The game's so different than
It is.
2009.
Yeah.
So E.J. Manuel, his last year was 70% completions, 3,400 yards, 23 touchdowns, 10 picks, which then was very good. 68% completions was really good. He ran for his last year 310 yards and 4 touchdowns.
That's pretty close, son.
What was Will? Let's see what Will Howard was.
Let's go rapid fire with a couple of these.
We got a lot of time. We got till Thursday, G-Man.
Okay, yeah. We'll
Howard better passing numbers, but that's an evolution of the game. Howard rushing last year 226 yards, 2 yards a carry. So
No, pretty similar.
pretty similar.
Yeah.
All right.
could break these up by position if you want.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
well,
that.
that's why don't we do
All
it.
right.
Take
Yeah.
a break and we'll come back.
Cool.
There you go. Good job.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do running backs tomorrow. Coming up next, we go around the league. Among those, a couple of transactional things that we will get you updated on. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans, this month's winner of the local business platform presented by Minuteman is Russell Standard. Is a nearly 100-year-old family-owned business. Russell Standard's Akron plant helps supply asphalt and asphalt emulsions, perform preventative road maintenance to customers across the country. Check them out today at russellstandard.com. To learn more about the local business platform, visit browns.com/community/local business platform. We had Around the League presented by Leaf Filter, official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. The Jets will exercise fifth-year options on cornerback Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson. That is the way that is going to shake out. That they are think about all of the teams that there's just such intrigue around. So they're going with Fields.
Yep.
And they've given him the 2-year deal with $30 million of it guaranteed. They still have all of this group of young talent that it's just weird to me that Pittsburgh didn't just roll with Fields.
I think it's
Or do you
crazy
think he was
that they
like-
didn't just roll with Fields.
You think it's possible that he was just bothered by, like he took that personal what they did when they benched him?
I do think so. I don't see why they
So
wouldn't
weird.
have. The Jets are interesting, but now they've got Wilson. There was talk that they might try to trade Breece Hall in the draft. They've got a bunch of running backs, although I think Breece Hall is by far the best of them. Devontae Adams is gone now.
Yeah.
It's an interesting team. Garrett Wilson, is he going to get frustrated if he's not getting the ball? Now, Justin Fields is able to get DJ Moore the ball effectively. And that division, Miami, it feels like you're not sure what they are. New England, you would think with Vrabel and Drake May now in his second year, they're on the ascent, but they still need quite a bit. It really feels like it's the Bills and then everybody else in that division right now.
Which it was last year. Bills were 13-4. The Dolphins finished second at 8-9.
Yeah.
Like we used to. Let's just do this real quickly in the AFC. Contender,
Okay.
ascending. What would be the third category? Not the bottom.
Pretender?
Yeah, maybe.
Or just
And then
not going to happen?
building.
Yeah.
Bills.
Contender.
Miami. What is Miami? What do you think they are? Not ascending.
I think they think they're a contender. If Tua's healthy and you get Tyreek back, and
You can talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the category.
Yeah.
You can talk yourself into
talk
it.
yourself.
You can talk yourself into it.
Talk
That
yourself.
might be
and
it.
then no chance.
No chance. Yeah. Jets. They would be in the
They think they're ascending with Fields.
maybe. You could talk themselves into their ascending. They're not contending for anything. Patriots are ascending,
Patriots,
but they're like
they
us.
still
They
have
need
a
a
lot.
ton of weapons
Yeah,
that they need.
a lot.
Baltimore contending.
Contending.
Pittsburgh.
Talk yourself.
They are the poster child for talk yourself into it. Sign Rodgers. That defense. We got DK Metcalf. We can spin it.
Yep.
Cincinnati.
Contender.
Or talk themselves into it.
Yep. No, they're a contender. They're a contender.
I tend to lean with you, but like
They're a contender. They have Joe Burrow.
I guess they did last year. He played the whole year.
And he was great. And if they don't lose
They
to
went
New England, they go to
9-8.
the playoffs, and maybe they go win the Super Bowl. I don't
Maybe.
know.
They have Burrow, so I think as long as they have the two receivers. They kept
Yes.
them, so that's a win. But they
They're
have big questions.
They're in the
defensively.
contender category, but they're not in the. They'd
Buffalo,
be a tier
Kansas City,
below
Baltimore,
Buffalo.
yeah. Us. Find out after this week.
I'm just gonna say ascending because we were 3-14. I feel like you need to be 4-13 would be ascending.
That would
from
be.
that
It would.
spot.
You'll be better than 3-14. Yeah.
Yeah.
AFC South.
But I don't think we're talk yourself just yet.
No, I don't think so either. AFC South. Houston.
Contender.
Indy. I don't know what Indy is,
They'll probably talk yourself. They've been knocking on the door for a couple years.
but I mean they're running back the quarterback.
Well,
They
and
got
Daniel Jones.
and Danny Dimes.
I'd say middling.
Middling.
Yeah, we
'Cause
don't
they're
have that
not
category yet,
doing-
but yes, I agree.
They're trying
to me,
to, like-
middling means you're trying to talk yourself into it.
Yeah, that's kind of the same. Yeah, it's probably last chance for that quarterback.
Yes.
To see if something can happen with him. Jacksonville. Talk yourself
Talk
into
yourself.
it. Do you know what their record was last year without looking?
6-11.
4-13.
Well, yeah, they're picking what, 5th?
4-13.
Man,
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
In that division
it's terrible.
with all that talent.
Yeah,
Jeez. Tennessee.
no chance.
No chance. But they'll be excited.
Yeah,
They'll draft Cam Ward. They'll be
they'll feel
excited
like
about
that
it.
they're then they hope they're
Yeah.
ascending.
Yeah. Kansas City, contender. Chargers,
Contender.
I would agree. Denver,
Contender.
Denver, or Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Same.
Although didn't Denver beat them right at the end of the year?
I can't remember that. Denver's tricky. Like, are you going to run, is Nick's going to be able to do that again?
I don't know. Sean Payton. I feel like there's a lot of things that
Cincinnati
you like about what's going
beat
on
them
there.
end of last year. Cincinnati beat them 30-24. It took overtime, but they beat them in overtime on December 28th. Then they lost their last game, which was to Kansas City. Or no, they beat Kansas City 38-0. They had back-to-back losses, December 19th and 28th. They lost at the Chargers, 34-27, and they lost to Cincinnati.
So we'll put them in. You can put them in. Talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
Are they ascending? I don't know. I think they're better in ascending.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs last year? They did, right?
I can't remember if they.
I think
Yeah,
so.
they did.
I think they were like the 7.
Yeah, that seems right. Yeah, they got in. Yeah, them and the Chargers both got in.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 teams from that division ended up getting in.
So where would you put them ultimately?
I think contending. If you're in
That's
the
what I think.
playoffs, and
Yeah.
I think you probably are. I think you're probably contending at that
Yeah.
point. And then the Raiders to close out the AFC.
I'd say that's a talk yourself into it. You got Pete Carroll, you brought in Geno Smith.
Ashton Genty. We get Ashton Genty at 6,
Yep.
and then we can do this.
Yep.
It's amazing how these divisions have kind of shifted and how some things have remained the same. If you think about last year, for example, obviously our division is what it is and has been and will continue to be. But like last year, there were 2 years ago for sure, there were a lot of people that thought Bills, Dolphins, Jets would all be playoff teams 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now Miami missed the postseason last year. Obviously, the Jets have been a debacle for 2 years, one part because of an injury and last part just because there were. And it's like, what happened to this window you were in? You're in this window and you think, here we go, and then it just didn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah. This is a big week, man.
It's a huge week.
Big
This
week
is
for a lot of these teams.
A massive, massive week.
How many Super Bowl contenders are there in the NFC? Philly, as currently constructed. Philly and Washington.
Philly, Washington, yeah.
Leos.
Detroit.
I can't go there with Minnesota because I don't know who's quarterback. I mean, I know it's going to be McCarthy, but I haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
Green Bay.
Green Bay. I mean, Chicago's going to – I think Chicago, if they're not,
They were
that's going to be
5-12.
That's going to be a problem next year. But they're pretty
They're pretty loaded.
– yes.
Yeah, they really are. Nobody in the South.
The Rams.
Ram it, and then Niners.
Yeah.
I know the Niners went 6-11, but
I know, but still.
what's boots on the ground Pedro think of them and their offseason so far?
He's nervous. He doesn't know he's nervous. He doesn't know what's going on just yet. He really is.
All right, so there you go. It's a massive week around the league as
The biggest.
As you try to. There's so many of these teams that are you add the right pieces and you could get it flipped pretty quickly and headed in a different direction. That was Around the League. It's presented by Leaf Filter, official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. Connor Rogers, NFL draft analyst at NBC Sports, is going to join us coming up next. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Hey, welcome back in. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time to head out on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. He's the NFL draft analyst at NBC, and of course, host of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Connor Rogers joins us. Connor, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's just start with the easy one, which is if you were Andrew Berry and you're sitting there at number 2, what do you do?
What's going on, guys? I think, you know what? The good thing is you're going to walk away with one of the 2 blue-chip talents in this draft, in Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. Now, for me, with this team specifically, I think I'd lean Travis Hunter. Now, he's my number 1 player in the draft, but I think there's an argument for both him and Carter being that guy. But you have Myles Garrett in the fold. You feel good enough about your pass rush. Sure, you could make it strength to strength, and watching those 2 together would be insane. But I truly think for this team, Travis Hunter can play both ways, and I think he can be your borderline number 1 wide receiver. I'd be fascinated if that's the way they used him, what his role on defense would be. I would actually gear more towards him being a rotational free safety where those ball skills can really kind of change the course of the game at any moment. But if you listen to Travis Hunter speak, he's determined to be a number 1 corner and a number 1 wide receiver. But I think what he individually can do for this Cleveland team would make him my choice at number 2.
You compare him to Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, as it were. What led you to that comp? What about Travis Hunter reminds you of, obviously, the great Ochocinco?
Yes, I try to be careful with player comps. This is definitely the loftiest one I gave out this year by a pretty wide margin, especially Ochocinco having 7 seasons of 1,000-plus yards. Now, if Hunter's going to play both ways, that's going to be tough to pull off. But you watch their body types, right? Slender kind of guys, not short. They're not overly tall, but they're definitely not short. But it's not the twitch. It's not the long speed. These guys aren't running 4.3s to get over the top of you. They're changing direction. They're twitching their routes, their ability to kind of sink their hips and explode with their footwork and generate separation, and to carry that over after the catch to make people miss. They have very, very similar body types, the slender body types, but their athleticism, their athletic profiles are very similar as well. And then when you're that slender and you're not 6'4", their ball skills are insane. They just know how to time their jumps, their high points, their hang time, catching the ball away from their body. I just saw Travis is such a unique player that it was kind of hard to draw up a comp. And when I watched him last summer, I thought with the ball in his hands, he reminded me of Garrett Wilson a lot. But then I watched the actual, we really dive in on the route work this year and the leaps he took as a player, as a wide receiver. It kind of gave me the flashback to Ochocinco. So that kind of tells you what I think of the player on offense.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, Connor, in one of your first answer there when you talked about safety for him, because I haven't heard anybody else say that, and Nathan and I have talked about that on this show about, like, look, if he's going to be a full-time receiver, the first thing you say is, okay, well, he can play some man corner in a pinch, but we actually have really good corners here, and we like our safety room too, but his ball skills is kind of like, hey, center fielder, watch me just come intercept passes, because to your point, like, the strength for him, and I've said this anecdotally, it felt like watching him play offensively or defensively. If the ball was in the vicinity, he ended up with it, and that would be maybe a good use of that. So, if you could expand on that a little bit, is that kind of the way you see it potentially?
It is, and it's funny you guys say that to me, and I'm glad you've had this conversation as well, because I haven't heard anyone else say this, and when I bring it up to people, their eyes kind of widen, like, wow, I just never really thought of that, because we're so programmed to think, okay, number 1 corner, package of plays on offense. And if that's the route they go, I have no problem with that. But I actually think his skill set, I've kind of come full circle on this, because over the summer I thought he was a way better wide receiver. During the season I started to get excited about his value as a corner. And now I've kind of come back to it full circle where I look at it, and you nailed it where, Cleveland's not in terrible shape at corner, number 1, and they're not in terrible shape at wide receiver. I'm a big Cedric Tillman guy. I think he just needs to stay healthy. But this is a dynamic player that can be the top of your depth chart in both those spots, but specifically at wide receiver, where he's not a great tackler. He's not a poor tackler. He's just kind of a mediocre one, and I think it'll get better over time. That would be the number 1 question on the back end of the defense. But the style he plays, and when you look at, there's times at corner where he's still trying to out-athlete, and when his hands are wrong or his back pedal's wrong, he'll get a little grabby. Where you look at him at safety, his eye discipline, his awareness, his instincts, his ability to kind of read a quarterback and make a play on the football, I think of him as a roaming safety on the back end, or even as a split safety on the back end with his range. it would be pretty incredible to watch this guy go sideline to sideline and steal 6 interceptions a year at the safety position. So, and the thing is, to me, I think he could do that while being the number one wide receiver. I'm skeptical. I won't say I'm a denier of it because this guy's proven everybody wrong at every stop at the snap count he's been able to play. But I'm skeptical of the idea of, hey, go out there, run around with Jamar Chase for 50 snaps, and are you ready for 11 targets today and to get sawed in half in the middle of the field? And when you're catching your breath, to go out there and run with Jamar Chase again? And I know that's a high-end example I'm setting. Not everybody has Jamar Chase. But that's where I'm a little skeptical of it, where I look on the other half of it and go, man, maybe his skill set and his longevity actually fits at a different position on defense.
Certainly would be interesting, and I know there are a lot of very famous former NFL players that are excited to see what he does in the league. I like that. Just go ahead, be a single high or split safety and take it deep half away or deep middle and go make plays, go find the ball. Would be fun certainly to see. We'll see if the Browns do that if they draft him. I want to ask you about the quarterbacks because this is a one quarterback draft for you. But at 33, it also seems like it would only be a one quarterback draft for you at 33. You have Shedeur Sanders at 31 on your big board, and then you don't have another quarterback, I think, till Jalen Milroe at 58, Dart 63. So if you are the Browns, is it basically, Hunter, and then if Shedeur's there at 33, you take him, and if not, you're waiting on quarterback?
That's where I see it. Now, listen, of course they get a curve, right? If you took Milroe at that spot, because of the upside, I would not kill that pick. If you believed in Dart because of the upside, I wouldn't kill that pick, although I look at Cleveland and go, man, if they take a rookie, there's going to be some noise to see that guy at some point this season. And me personally, I would like to not see Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe on an NFL field this season. I'd like to let them kind of marinate for a year and really get that redshirt year and sit behind the scenes and work and grasp the offense and understand how to go through an NFL training camp and practice and not be thrown into the spotlight right away. So it is going to be really, really interesting with how these quarterbacks go. I think at the end of the day, there's a chance that a Cleveland or a Giants or somebody like that gets a pretty fair deal to come into the back end of round one if Shedeur's falling and go, hey, let's take him because we like him enough and the price is so low here. And it would be even more fascinating for Cleveland if they took Travis Hunter and then they went back in and got Shedeur because the chemistry between those two is real. That would elevate, in my eyes, Shedeur's rookie season, having Travis there because it's a comfort blanket. It's somebody that, when things get a little crazy, I can take my shots to him. And Travis bailed him out on a lot of big plays at Colorado, I thought. And Shedeur put him in some tough spots where he took some big hits. But that's the beauty of the quarterback and wide receiver connection. So ultimately in the top 50, I think Dart and Shedeur are definitely going to go. I think Milroe's got a shot. I definitely think, though, if I was a GM and I had the luxury of it, I would love to sit out on this quarterback class this year after Cam Ward is called at number one.
To that end, let's say that the Browns do, in essence, sit out on it, and they go with a quarterback, let's call it in rounds 3 or 4, and I would even, let's just say round 4 for argument's sake. Do you like any of those guys? Is there anybody that could potentially be, whether it's McCord, a Will Howard, a Dylan Gabriel, that could maybe be something? And I guess the Browns, from that standpoint, would be kind of going with, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about it, right, is that when it comes down to it, you look at their quarterback room and you'd love to add to it. But when it comes down to it, the guys after that, it's a lot of backups with maybe some upside. I think McCord is the one that's interesting because the turnaround from Ohio State to Syracuse, he was in an offense that used a ton of different formations. They were super pass-heavy. A lot was put on his plate. He's a bit of a gunslinger. I mean, you watch the tape. I think he had 24 turnover-worthy plays, but you love the big-time throws, the ability to push the ball down the field, to take chances. He'll throw it when guys are covered and give him a shot, and that works to his advantage and it works against him. McCord is the one where I look at it and go, there's a little more variance. There's a chance where the turnovers just don't get better, and he's just not an NFL quarterback. And then there's the chance where the big-time kind of stuff stays in his arsenal. He cuts down the turnover-worthy play percentage like Cam Ward did this year, and he kind of dabbles around being a fringe starter. Will Howard, I really, really like. I just see him as a floor player. I think he's going to be a backup in this league for 10 years. I think he's insanely cerebral. He's tough. He can kind of adjust to any environment. Guys will follow him. He got really, really more comfortable in that Ohio State offense the last, 25% of the year. You kind of saw his mentality change. Do I think he's the most physically gifted player in this draft or gifted quarterback in this draft? No, and that's what kind of limits his ceiling as a whole. So for the Browns, it feels like they kind of made up their mind with having that backup in Pickett or that style of player when they acquired him. I would be chasing upside, which is why for the Browns I'd be a little bit more intrigued by a Milroe at some point. I'd be intrigued by a Kyle McCord later on, and then they might just let the board fall to them and kind of swoop in on Shedeur if you're pairing him with Travis. So there's kind of limited scenarios that I truly like for them, but those are kind of the three.
Connor, let's say it's 67 and it's Milroe. He's one of the tougher ones for me because the Georgia game, he's unbelievable, and he basically just threw to the freshman Ryan Williams the whole game. It was kind of it, but he was great, and it was a big win for them, and they were great in that. And then my last kind of memory of him is in the Oklahoma game, where they're just, and I know their offensive line was bad at Bama, and they didn't have the weaponry that normally they have at Bama, but just total incompetence. Like if he is a pick, what would you do as here's the path for him for success?
Number one, he's got to sit this year. He needs a reset. He was someone, and you nailed it. Like, the film is one of the more wild rides you'll go on this year, honestly, because you look at him not only as a runner, but some of the throws. And like I always say it like this with people. If I watch Jalen Milroe's, 10 best plays of his college career, I would think he's the number one pick in the draft. Mm-hmm. And then the problem is there's a lot more than that at quarterback. And you're never going to find a way for him to be that guy all the time. But can you tip the scale? And I keep going back to Cam Ward because I think Cam Ward is a guy that really tipped the scale. I think the way he grew from Incarnate Ward to Washington State to Miami, he just kept lowering his wildness and recklessness until it was a point where his three-point plays were such a higher percentage than those really, really puzzling plays that he's now the number one pick. And I think with Milroe, he obviously has the 4.4 speed. So you're going to kind of design an offense that has a design run game. You want to keep things a little simple for him. You kind of want him to play, obviously, a lot smarter in the red zone, which is a huge problem in college as well. And I just think he's a total project that needs at least a year to sit. I don't know if Cleveland is that spot, but I believe in the coach. I think that's the most important thing for Jalen Milroe. When I look at, say the three coaches in the NFL that I'd love to kind of see work with Milroe behind the scenes for a year and that are realistic, right? Not places that have a quarterback. Sean McVay comes top of mind, obviously, because Stafford's getting to the end here. The Browns and Stefanski, who's just phenomenal, and the outside zone run game they're able to develop and what they could do, I think what his mind would be able to do with the design run game with the quarterback, of course. And then Brian Dable with the Giants, where another spot that, he could sit for a while, but Dable worked with Josh Allen, and when he was young, he was really all legs and was able to kind of balance it out as a thrower as well and get him under control as well. So, yeah, it's a giant risk. 67 would be the spot where you feel good about that because the risk is worth the reward in that spot, but it feels like Milroe's days of being a third-round pick, which I loved him in that range, could be behind us.
Let's say that you get Hunter at 2, you get Shedeur at 33. At 67, who are some of your favorite weapons that could still be there for the Cleveland Browns in that early third round?
I love Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa, in this spot. I look at the scheme, his patience, his vision. He kind of glides behind his blockers and is able to stick his foot in the ground and then get uphill. And, his playing weight is 225. So when he gets to that second and third level, it's like, okay, can I run through you? I'll stiff arm you. He's got I know the 40 time tells a different story, but I don't look at him and think he's a slow player. And when you're that weight, it's different. It's different than a 190-pound back running 4.4, 4.39. So Caleb Johnson comes to mind for me just because he's the kind of running back that they can get. It's a third-round starting running back is a pretty good bargain that you feel good about there. So he's the guy I always come back to for the Browns, especially when the days of getting Amari and Hampton at 33 kind of fell behind us. I thought that would be a dream fit for so long, and then before you know it just feels like Amarian is somebody that's going to go earlier than that. But you look, if you want to use one of the later picks, right? Say you want to sit there and go, we need 67 on a starter in the trenches or whatever it be. We're going to look at 94 or 104 for our running back. Bashaw Tutin from Virginia Tech, explosive athlete, another guy that fits the zone running game, his missed tackle force rate over the last 2 years, which is a pretty consistent number in terms of translating to the NFL. If you could make people miss and create your own yards in college at an alarming rate, you should be pretty good at that skill at the NFL level. So Bashaw Tutin would be able to do that as well. And, one more name if they wanted that bigger kind of running back would be Damian Martinez from Miami, just because his ability to churn through contact.
Talking to Connor Rogers, NFL draft analyst, NBC Sports, host of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Connor, obviously we do this show in the great state of Ohio. A lot of Buckeyes going to get drafted in this, 14, 15, depending on what it all shakes out. Of their haul, and it seems like a lot of them are going to go on day 2, who are some that you really like out of this class in terms of their projection to the next level?
I mean, what's not to like about this group? I have Emeka Ibuka at 15. I think he's such a polished route runner, good blocker, tough, smart, physical. Tyleek Williams, I have at 23. He could two-gap for days and be a brick wall for your run defense. Judkins and Donovan Jackson, 31 and 32. Judkins is a battering ram that can get downhill. Donovan Jackson, people need to understand evaluating him at left tackle does a disservice to him at how good he was as a left guard. And it's a credit to him that he was able to kind of save them in a pinch at left tackle when Simmons got hurt. Mm-hmm. And Simmons is right after them, but you could tell me in 8 years, Simmons ended up being an all-pro tackle. You could tell me in 8 years Simmons ended up just kind of floating around the league as a swing guy for a couple of years. There's so much I just don't know there medical-wise with what happened to his knee this year. And the fact that his really good film this year was against the softer side of their schedule. So he's a tough one to figure out. While all these guys, I know exactly what they are. JT Tuimoloau, heavy-handed, edge-setting, your second kind of pass rusher. You get the two-handed swipe. Not bendy, but just smart and tough in the trenches. I mean, obviously, you get a little further down the board with Sawyer, who's a sawed-off kind of player, but another heavy-handed run defender that can set the edge for you. And then you go deeper down the board. Like Lathan Ransom should be a starting strong safety. Ty Hamilton has some pass rush juice. They always got one of these guys that's this undersized 3-tech that gets off the ball and wreaks havoc. It feels like they have one of those guys every year. So, and I didn't even get to Seth McLaughlin and Denzel Burke and Cody Simon. It's crazy how many times I was stacking this 320 and it's Ohio. I mean, I guess it's not nuts for a national champion team, but some college teams are really, really good. Doesn't mean they have pro talent. It felt like they had pro talent at every single position in layers. It'd be the first unit and the second unit.
To play 16 games to win a national title, it's no fluke. You need to have all that talent to get it done. Connor, great stuff, man. Really appreciate the conversation and giving us some of your time today.
Oh, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you having me. Enjoy the draft this week.
Yeah, you too. Connor Rogers, NFL draft analyst at NBC Sports, host of the Fantasy Football Happy Hour, joined on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted. Cleveland, Emeka at 15. That goes to that conversation we were having earlier.
Yep.
A little bit about that. So much more to come. Listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Tune in tonight from 7 to 8, University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network for the Browns Draft Preview Show presented by Huntington with Ken and Z. That is General Manager Andrew Berry joining. ESPN NFL Draft Analyst Field Yates will join the guys as well as they get you set for the 2025 NFL Draft.
Let's go.
Let's be real honest. It's been a very quiet NFL offseason.
Strangely
by NFL
so.
standards.
Yes.
Free agency was really quiet.
Yep.
The trade market was really quiet. The quarterback stuff happened early. The Rodgers thing is hung, but that's it. Everyone's been looking at this draft, and they're just because there's been no trades. I mean, think about that. There's been no first-round trades, so there hasn't been that to talk about. It's just been a very quiet offseason. I don't know why.
And doesn't every team have a first-round pick?
They all do. First time that it's been this late in the game since, as I mentioned, since Montana in '93, that we've had it this late in the game where there has been all of the teams still have their ones.
It's wild. I mean, it just never used to be that way.
No, there's usually a deal at some point, and there isn't even like.
That was the night there was the last time there wasn't a trade at all. But there's nobody that everybody has a first
every
rounder
team
this
has
year.
their first round picks.
Yeah, that hasn't happened.
No, I mean we've had several years where
knows?
multiple teams had 2 ones
Multiple.
in a row.
Yeah.
We've had that a lot, and
Yep.
you can flip in a hurry. But everybody's holding on to them. Don't know exactly why, but they are. But I think that's led to kind of all of us like, all right, let's just get to it.
Yes.
Our
let's get
guys
to
are
it.
in the building today. We're going to draft players Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They'll be here next week, and they'll have their introductions, and then we can go and get a look at. Everyone's just anxious for that. Like, let's just get our guys. And
This is the first time, by the way, in the modern draft era
that
that
every team's
all
had their own.
32
every
teams
team's got them.
have their first round pick.
When does the Martin draft era start? Is that like the 70s?
67. The
Yeah,
G-Man
this
just
is
rattled that off.
I didn't. Yeah,
Wow.
This
So
is very rare.
never
1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah, very rare indeed.
Yeah.
We need to throw a little gasoline on the brush fire.
Yeah,
Come on,
I just think
let's
so
go.
because it's just been groupthink for like a month. And so there's, with very little updates or anything going on. So could be either way, it's going to be a very exciting week for us, most especially by the time you get to Thursday and into Friday as well. So there you go, kids. The next level is coming up next.
30.
We are back tomorrow. Thanks for listening, buddy. Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns.